Let's talk about one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL and the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford and the Rams. I love the moves that they've made in free agency. This is one of those teams that's been flying under the radar since they won that Super Bowl a couple years ago against Cincinnati Bengals. I don't understand what happened. It seems like everyone was talking about the Rams when they were making all these outrageous trades to go get guys like Jalen Ramsey and get guys like Von Miller. It seemed like when they won that Super Bowl, the national media just said, okay, we're done with this team. Let's just put them on the shelf. We're done with them. They're not done. And I understand they had that horrible year after they went to the Super Bowl. They had a down year. Matthew Stafford dealt with a back injury. I fully understand that. But let's take a look at this season. They bring in Puka Nacua, a rookie. No one thought Puka Nacua was going to go out there and be the number one option for the Los Angeles Rams. If I was to come on here last year after the NFL draft and I was to say Puka Nacua is going to be the best wide receiver on the Rams, you would laugh at me. Puka Nacua came out and was a number one option for the Rams majority of the season, especially when Cooper Kupp was out dealing with injury. I think the Los Angeles Rams are going to be a hard team to beat moving forward in the NFC, and they could possibly make a deep playoff run if their defense is better, because Matthew Stafford has shown in the past he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when you give him enough time in the pocket. Matthew Stafford has dealt with injuries in the past. He's been beat up. He's been banged up, even going back to his years with the Detroit Lions. But when you give this man a solid to good offensive line, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. When we speak of arm talent, you always hear about guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and things that they can do with the football. You rarely ever hear about Matthew Stafford now. But Matthew Stafford is still in that conversation. And he is a bit older, but he hasn't taken a step back. Not in my opinion. He has the same big arm. He can get inside and outside the pocket. And this is a guy that's going to be playing behind one of the better offensive lines in the NFC. They drafted Steve Avila. This kid has been one of the best interior offensive linemen this season, especially for a rookie. Then you also bring in Jonah Jackson, who's a road raider from the Detroit Lions. Then you bring in Kevin Dotson as well, who's a solid guard. Both of those guys fit Sean McVey's system. They fit the one-cut system of swinging the guards around and going out there and just opening up space for the running back. The Los Angeles Rams are going to run the football at will still, and then it opens up the pass game for Matthew Stafford. One thing that we have all seen since Sean McVey has been the head coach with this team, even dating back when they had Todd Gurley and Jared Goff. He wants to establish the line of scrimmage, especially on the offensive end, to open up that pass game. Then you have to deal with all the motion. They had 15 motion plays the second time they faced the Seattle Seahawks, and they swept that team this season. That's not an easy thing to do in your division. They swept the Seattle Seahawks. Granted, the Seattle Seahawks in the first game were dealing with a lot of injuries on the offensive front, and their defense may have not been the best. But it was the game planning by Sean McVey. A lot of people do not give this man his credit. He'll go out there and he'll put wide receivers in the slot, so where the linebacker is basically essentially guarding them, and next thing you know, it's a mismatch. Then you'll have a guy like Cooper Kupp in one-on-one coverage, and he'll move around Puka Nacua inside the slot, outside the slot, and then next thing you know, Tutu Atwell is wide open deep down the seam for a 40-yard touchdown. It's little things like that. Sean McVey is one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the NFL, and he's one of the best head coaches in the NFL. This man, in his short tenure, has been to 2 Super Bowls, and has won 1. And they were in close contention with the Patriots in that first Super Bowl. This is a man that's one of the most scariest head coaches in the NFL to game plan against because of the mismatches that he can find. He's going to make sure that he can cover every blade of grass on the offensive end. And he could do that now. Puka Nacua is not known for being a deep threat, but let's go and look at the Detroit Lions game. He can be a deep threat. The same with Cooper Kupp and the same with Tutu Atwell as well. And I'm speaking so much of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. When you look at Puka Nacua numbers, they're ridiculous. Puka Nacua, this season, in his rookie season, he did get force-fed a lot, but he had 1,486 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. And then you look at a guy like Cooper Kupp, missed some time this season. Now, he's not going to have that season that he had a couple years ago when he led the league in receiving yards, he led the league in receiving, he led the league in receiving touchdowns. That's a once-in-a-lifetime type of season. But he's still one of the best in the game in terms of route running. This man had 59 catches on the season and was still able to go out there and give you good production with 737 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. The running joke in Matthew Stafford's career has been that he's a one-read type of quarterback, that he's going to force feed the wide receiver to football. Going back to his days with the Detroit Lions when they had Calvin Johnson. And it is a joke because obviously he does spread the football around. But when he builds a connection with a guy, he's going to make sure that you get the football. But you have two number one options for this man in Cooper Kupp and in Puka Nacua. And Tutu Atwell is a very good wide receiver as well. I remember when a lot of people were down on the Rams. People came out and said the Rams were missing on their draft picks. Tutu Atwell did not look good. He was not developing fast enough. You bring in these two guys right now, and next thing you know, Tutu Atwell is dealing with one-on-one coverage. That's what got him the success in college. 483 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Those may not seem like crazy numbers, but he's not a true number one and true number two wide receiver. So putting up those numbers like that, that's very good enough. And you still have a solid veteran in Demarcus Robinson as well, if one of those guys do go down. But bringing in those linemen that they have and Kevin Dotson and bringing in Jonah Jackson, that's going to make a lot of difference up front with this run game. Because like I mentioned before, this team runs a similar system to what the San Francisco 49ers run. Because Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVey come from the same tree. They're going to run the football. They're going to use the run to set up the pass. And next thing you know is play action city. And Matthew Stafford is one of the best play action quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, they did have a lot of down moments this season when Kyron Williams was out. He was dealing with that ankle injury. But on the season, 1,144 rushing yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. The man averaged 5 yards a carry. That's crazy to average 5 yards a carry in the NFL. This is the best running back talent-wise that Sean McVay has had since Todd Gurley. And he's going to use this kid. And Kyron Williams is phenomenal. So this offense is going to be set. Adding more offensive linemen is just going to be better for Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams long term. Do not sleep on this team. And they're not done just yet. They didn't just add offensive linemen to this team. They went out and they added a very good defensive player in Darius Williams. Now, I'm not going to come on here and say that he's going to be the next Jalen Ramsey with this team and that he's just true number one shutdown corner. But he had 4 interceptions on the season. He looked very good this season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars had to cut him because of cap concerns. But this is a man that allowed 2 touchdowns. He did allow 720 receiving yards, but let's look at this for context. He was in a bad defensive system with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Everyone on that team in the secondary regressed, except for the linebackers and the defensive linemen. That's why their defensive coordinator got fired. Darius Williams, still a very solid corner to have. And that's the one thing that the Los Angeles Rams has struggled with since they traded Jalen Ramsey. Is secondary help. You bring this man in, he's a solid corner to have, and he's a veteran. He's going to make sure everyone else in that secondary is good as well. And that's what did them in against the Detroit Lions. A lot of calls did not go towards their way in that playoff game. But the secondary could have been better in that game. And they were just a couple plays away from beating the Detroit Lions as well. Not too many people speak of that. You do have a brand new defensive coordinator in Chris Shula. He's been with this team for so long, it's basically just a promotion. This man has been a linebackers coach. He's been the pass game coordinator. He's basically going to run the same system that Raheem Morris ran last season. And Raheem Morris is no longer with this team. He's now the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. But Chris Shula, like I mentioned before, has been around. He was the outside linebackers coach in 2019 to 2020, the linebackers coach in 2021, pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach in 2022, and he was a pass rush coordinator and linebackers coach in 2023. So he's going to specialize in linebackers and getting pressure up front. What is one thing this team did a very good job of? Putting pressure on the quarterback. Aaron Donald is still with this team. He's still one of the best defensive players in the NFL. 8 sacks on the season. And is an elite run stopper. Kobe Turner led all rookies in sacks, 9 sacks on the season. He's very good. You have guys like Byron Young, who was very good this season for the Los Angeles Rams. And I do think that Byron Young has that ability to go out there and he can give you double-digit sacks in the season. Had 8 sacks in the season, 2 forced fumbles. He was very good. Now, their secondary, like I mentioned before, they need help there. I can see them going out there and possibly getting a cornerback early in the draft to pair up with Darius Williams, because you look at guys in their secondary, you look at someone like Kobe Durant, he hasn't developed. He's not a true number 1, a true number 2 corner with this team. He's a huge liability in coverage. Darion Kendrick is a guy that you look at. He could possibly be a true starter with this team. He can give you some very good snaps in the future. He's still developing as well. And I'd still like Ernest Jones' team as well in the interior linebacking spot. 4.5 sacks on the season and 74 solo tackles. So this is a team, they have a lot of young players on the defensive side of the ball, but they also are mixing in some veterans as well to help develop those guys and put them into the right situation. But having a guy like Kobe Turner next to Aaron Donald, that's phenomenal. And having the head coach that you have in Sean McVey, you're going to always be a contending team in that division. Right now, they're the second best team in that division. The Arizona Cardinals are going through this rebuilding phase right now with Jonathan Gannon. You know, they have Kyler Murray, but the Los Angeles Rams have a complete game plan for Kyler Murray. Go out there and get pressure on him in the middle of the field and make sure they can't step in the pocket because he's an undersized quarterback. You look at the Seattle Seahawks right now, they're going to have a lot of major changes. You're bringing in a brand new head coach. And like I mentioned before, this team went out there and they swept the Seattle Seahawks last season. And you do worry about the San Francisco 49ers, but that could be a dogfight. I do believe that could be a dogfight. The 49ers are the team to beat. They have guys like Deebo Samuel. You have Brock Purdy, who is a very good quarterback. You have Brandon Ayuk with the team as well, George Kittle. So it's going to be hard to beat. But at the same time, if they can neutralize that defense of the San Francisco 49ers and they can tame that defense and that offensive line can put in work against the San Francisco 49ers front seven against guys like Nick Bosa, and some of those pass rushers that they have with Javon Hargrave, that's why it's so essential to get those interior linemen for the Los Angeles Rams. If you can do that, you could possibly go out there and you can compete with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not saying that this team is a Super Bowl favorite, but they're going to be hard to beat. You have a very good veteran quarterback in Matthew Stafford. You have a top head coach in Sean McVey. And you have a top running back in the NFL as well in Kyren Williams. What is there not to like offensively? Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. And it seems like Cooper Kupp's going to be the number 2 wide receiver. Essentially, he's still a number 1. But then you have Puka Nacua, who's emerged as well. Before I let you guys go, I do also want to say that the Rams have been hitting on their draft picks. From Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, Kobe Turner. All these guys, they've been hitting on all of them. Byron Young. They've been hitting on all those late round draft picks. Because remember, the general manager said a couple years ago, F those picks. He was talking about the first round picks. But they've been able to hit on those draft picks from rounds 2 through 7. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the Los Angeles Rams? And are they a sleeper team in the NFC? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.